Welcome back. I'm still in Japan. So I wanted to talk about some of the cool things I got to do this week, largely as a result of living in the countryside. I feel like so much had happened. I was invited to participate in a traditional kind of dance festival at one of my elementary schools. That was really cool and interesting. I didn't do the best job dancing. I just tried to pick an elderly person who was in the circle and copy them as best as I could, but it was a struggle. But they were, I think, happy that I participated. We also had a firework festival. This is something I think that's countrywide for one of the holiday weekends here. That was quite good and quite fun. Very pretty, cool fireworks. It was also the most amount of people that I had seen in the downtown area, so that was kind of neat. We were also invited to go net fishing, which was a wild experience. Just me, a bunch of Japanese middle schoolers, as well as my coworkers here, just pulling on a net, trying to get some fish out. But it was super beautiful to be by the ocean and actually be wading knee deep in the water for a large part of it, especially since it's been such a hot summer. I was not prepared for summer. Humid, hot summer here is unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. It's really intense. Another fun feature of the summer in Japan are typhoons you might be familiar with. Typhoon season is a late summer feature of Japan, so August is prime typhoon season. It'll go from super sunny, super hot, blue skies to heavy rain thunderstorm in 10 seconds. And it's not just it starts drizzling kind of hot rain. Heavy rain thunderstorm, and it will be really intense heavy rain for 20 minutes, and then it'll completely stop and blue skies will be back. And it still remains hot through all of this, so it just gets muggier and muggier. I did get rained on my way home because of course a lot of times these random heavy thunderstorm moments come in my 15-minute period of walking home, and then they stop the second I arrive. It's typhoon season in Japan. Don't go outside without an umbrella. Speaking of countryside life, I definitely have some thoughts about it so far. So I think people, especially foreigners, like to trash the inaka of Japan. Inaka is countryside. Where I live is not super rural. It has a significant amount of people. It has grocery stores, konbinis. It has amenities. There's public transportation, there's train stations, there's buses. It's an accessible place. It's not super remote. I know some people who are in super remote locations. I don't even need to drive a car here. It's really not that bad, but people like to act like living in the countryside is the hardest thing ever. I feel like the American countryside would be really hard to live in because it's so sparse and so large and so flat. I live in technically a countryside area, but it's so mountainous and beautiful and lush and green that it doesn't feel super isolated at all, really. When I was first moving into town, I heard you're gonna kind of have to commute maybe 15-20 minutes on the bus to the main part of town, and then the nearest biggest city is a 40-minute to an hour train ride. And I was thinking 20 minutes an average commute for me, 40 minutes to an hour to get to another location that is different from the one that I'm at kind of sounds like Los Angeles, the place that I was living before here. LA is the countryside of cities. It's sparse, it's vast. You're in one area and you don't have all that much really accessible to you right there, you could get there, but it's gonna take 20 to 40 minutes. My commute to work in LA was an hour in the morning in traffic, an active hour in traffic, because when you're in your car and you're driving, you have to drive, especially in LA traffic where people are cutting in front of you or you almost have an accident happening every 5 minutes. But here, my commute to work is about 10 minutes walking, and that's one of my longer ones. And if I take the bus or the train, I can read and just zone out and enjoy the scenery. So honestly, surprisingly, the adjustment has not been very difficult at all because, in fact, my life is way simpler and easier than it was living in LA. And I get invited to participate in neat cultural stuff. People definitely have a very bizarre elitism about urban places, and I get it. I'm a city kid. I like living in cities, but I came to Japan because I wanted a challenge. I wanted to do something different and something that I wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do. I want my life here to look different from my life in LA. I don't want it to just be a carbon copy of the life I was already living, but in Japan, where nothing really feels all that different except the languages on the billboards is different. My life here is a lot different than my life in LA, and that's a good thing. That's what I wanted. I wanted something new. I wanted a challenge. I get all of those things by living in the Japanese countryside. And it's peaceful, and it's quiet, and people are friendly. I definitely am going to have more articulate thoughts about this at some point in the future, but the Japanese heat and sun is making me so exhausted, so I think that's all for now.